Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this new invitation. I speak a few words about the RUCK and global trends for educational transformation in this opportunity. The transformation of educational system is a global priority in a context marked by digitalization, sociocultural anxiety, and the need to develop 21st century skills. Within these frameworks, the RUG methodology, research, understanding, critical points, and knowledge developed by our teachers for teaching social science in Argentina emerged as a disruptive proposal aligned with international goals to reformulate learning and educational space. Its implementation in face-to-face and hybrid contexts and its emphasis on deep learning, collaboration, and the active reconstruction of knowledge allow us to understand RAC as a strategy that comprehensively responds to contemporary trends seeking to reimagine education based on a new social contract, as UNESCO said. RAC and deep learning. The RAC methodology is an innovative pedagogical approach centered on active research and critical thinking to transform social science teaching, moving beyond traditional memorization. RAC, which stands for inquiry, understanding, critical thinking, and knowledge, reposition the student as the protagonist of their own learning and the teacher as a facilitator, transforming education into a dynamic dialogue. This methodology implemented in institutions such as IKS in Argentina, in San Luis, Argentina, has been shown to double student participation and significantly improve academic performance. Finally, the documents that connect the RAC frameworks to the critical pedagogy of authors such as Paulo Freire and Henri Giroux, highlighting the importance of developing critical and autonomous citizens. The RAC approach aligns with global trends that promote deep learning, heuristic inquiry, and discussion as pillar of transformative education. According to international recommendation, the education of the futures must foster critical understanding and students' ability to integrate information mindfully, as UNESCO proposed. Along these lines, RACs propose a process that invites students to analyze academic source, debate ideas, identify theoretical gaps, and construct a new contribution to knowledge. This process culminates in the creation of a new production or a state-of-the-art review, which strengthens metacognition, critical analysis, and the ability to learn how to learn. That the methodology aligns with in-depth pedagogy focus on developing critical thinking and conceptual understanding. Another central dimension of work is this collaborative nature. Global trends emphasize that educational practice must move beyond individualistic approach and embrace cooperative, supportive, and dialogical forms of learning. The methodology promotes roundtables, groups discussion, and collective knowledge production, facilitating the inclusion of multiple perspectives and the development of social socio-emotional skills. Furthermore, it fosters an active and proactive approach to learning, a key aspect for civic education and the development of 21st century skills. In way to technological integration and transformation of educational environments, we can think in a global scenario marked by the digitalization of daily lives and post-pandemic challenges. Emerging pedagogies that integrate technology are carrying a leading role. RUCK fits within this framework by using digital resources such as video conference, online academic articles, and multimedia platforms to deepen research and thematic understanding. Its application in both face-to-face and hybrid environment respond to trends that conceives of the educational environment as a dynamic space in constant reconfiguration. From this perspective, the methodology recognizes the need to overcome the cultural conflicts arising from digitalization and adapt to new forms of interaction and knowledge production. We need educational reimagining and challenging the role of teachers. We can think in it in this way. The International Commission of the Futures of Education maintains that contemporary education must think the relationship between students, teachers, knowledge, and society, promoting more flexible, integrated, and meaningful learning. The RUCK methodology reflects this transformation by positioning the teachers as a facilitator and coordinator of the process, rather than a transmitter of content. Furthermore, its structures allow for personalized instruction, adapting it to the needs and interests of the students, in line with disruptive pedagogy aimed at reconfiguring learning process. The fourth stage of the RUCK methodology. The RUCK process is organized into four interconnected stages that allow students to progress from initial research to the construction of original knowledge. First, research. Students conduct a thorough research of bibliographic, reference, and audiovisual source, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and select the most relevant ones for analysis. Second, understanding. Thought group works. They explain, discuss, and interpret the central ideas of the text, complementing the process with freely accessible audiovisual resources. Third, critical points. In this stage, students develop critical point out the theoretical gaps on engage in dialogue with the author's perspective, promoting new interpretive possibilities. For knowledge, finally, they develop a new production, maybe a new article or state-of-the-art review that synthesize the analysis contribution and incorporate their own reflection, resulting in the construction of deep and meaningful knowledge. We can think in this aspect in other activities. For example, Social Innovation Lab, research mapping community problems, thought service, interview and analysis of local data, understanding workshop with community stakeholders to interpret the root cause of the problems, critical point designs of a critical prototype that challenge an existing solution and propose alternative approach. Knowledge, development of a community intervention kit with validate methodology and reflection on the process. Other example, virtual scientific expedition, research collection of environment, historical and cultural data on an ecosystem using remote sensor archives and narrative, understanding discussion forums to connect climate patterns with human migration or cultural change, critical points, debate on contradictory narrative, knowledge creation of an interactive documentary that tells the multidimensional story of the place. In other examples may be collective artistic creation workshops, research study of artistic movement, techniques and masterpieces that address a theme, understanding collective analysis of the symbolism on the context of a work studied, symbolism and context, critical point, discussion on which perspective have been silenced in the artistic canon, knowledge production of a collaborative installation or of performance that synthesizes the research and offers a new perspective. For example, geopolitical crisis simulation research team thoroughly investigate countries, alliance, resource, and conflict history related to the simulated crisis, understanding negotiation and construction of narrative from the assigned roles. In terms of critical points, identifying breaking points, informational biases, and ethical dilemmas during the simulation. Knowledge drafting a lesson learned thesis and a manifesto of 21st century diplomacy. We can think in these examples. All these activities maintain the sense of RUCKs. They began with rigorous research, mob thought, collaborative interpretation, advanced toward critical questioning, and culminate in the creative production of a new knowledge. They transform the student from a consumer to creator within a structured yet profoundly, flexibly, and meaningful frameworks. This stage consolidated a formative process centered on autonomy, argumentation, and creativity, allowing students to become active agents of their own learning. The RUCK methodology constitutes an innovative pedagogical proposal that responds to the contemporary trends of global education. Its emphasis on deep learning, collaboration, technological integration, and the redefinition of a teaching roles position it as a valuable tool for advancing toward a new social contract for education, such as proposed by UNESCO. Furthermore, its methodological structure facilitates the development of critical thinking, research skills, and life skills for students in a complex and changing world. This is the end. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you so much.